Breaking news in the last hour. Everton's 10-point deduction for breaching the Premier League's profit and sustainability rules is reduced to 6 points. Hi there, welcome to Sky Sports News. As Everton succeed in having their punishment reduced 3 months on from the original decision. Stand by for reaction from Luton Boss Rob Edwards. Well, this is what it's done for the Premier League table then, with Everton moving up from 17th to 15th. They go above Brentford on goal difference. It means Sean Dyche's side are 5 points clear of the relegation zone and with a much more superior goal difference to Luton, who are down in 18th place now. Now, Everton reacted to the decision, saying they feel vindicated for appealing against the original 10-point deduction. In a statement, this is what they had to say. Everton can confirm an appeal board has concluded that the points deduction imposed by an independent Premier League commission in November be reduced from 10 points to 6 points with immediate effect. The club is also particularly pleased with the appeal board's decision to overturn the original commission's finding that the club failed to act in utmost good faith. That decision, along with reducing the points deduction, was an incredibly important point of principle for the club on appeal. The club therefore feels vindicated in pursuing its appeal. Well, as for the Premier League, they say they're satisfied with today's decision and that the independent disciplinary process clearly set out in its rules and agreed by all clubs has been followed throughout. The written reasons for the decision from the Independent Appeals Board have been published too. They are 61 pages long. This is a key paragraph coming in the Appeal Board summary. They say this: in all the circumstances, including relevant mitigating and aggravating factors, the Appeal Board considers that a 6-point immediate points deduction is appropriate and proportionate in that it is a sanction both necessary and sufficient to achieve the aims of the profitability and sustainability rules. Now, Carve Solokor joins me now, our chief reporter. You've had a little bit more time to go through a lot of it now, but take us through, first of all, how this decision was actually reached.
Well, initially, Everton were found guilty of breaking Premier League's financial spending rules. Basically, they spent £19.5 million more than they should have over a rolling 3-year period. Now, to most people, £19.5 million in Premier League terms is not a lot of money. But because of that, they were hit with this 10-point deduction back in November. They decided to appeal. It was their right to appeal. The appeal was heard by a new 3-person panel. And the decision that they've come to is that the original punishment of 10 points was too much, and a fair punishment is 6 points. And they say that is in line with the EFL's punishments for breaking spending rules as well. And Everton say, we are pleased, we're satisfied that this has happened, especially because, for instance, if you become insolvent, you only get hit with a 9-point deduction. So why should you get 10 points for just breaking these financial rules by £19.5 million? I think the bigger picture is this is a small victory for Everton. If I was an Everton supporter this afternoon, I would be saying, this is quite good news, but nothing to celebrate about.
Okay.
I would have been getting the champagne out if the appeal panel had said, no, there shouldn't be a points deduction at all. It should just be a fine of 20, 30, 40, 50 million pounds. And that would have been very important as well, because it would have set a precedent. It would have set the benchmark for the second charge that Everton are facing. Then I would be popping the champagne, because I would be saying, on the first charge, we just got a fine, which means that in the second charge, we're just going to get a fine as well. So the league table is going to reflect what happens on the pitch and not what happens when accountants are drawing up their spreadsheets and what a 3-person panel or an appeal panel decides.
All right, so like I say, you've had a good look through it. What are your takeaways from it? Because I know what I've kind of seen in front of me and perhaps what some of the Everton fans are seeing. What are you seeing from it?
Well, look, I think from Everton's point of view, they say that they are satisfied. They say that it is very important to them that this appeal has overturned the finding of the initial commission that they didn't act in good faith. I think that is important to them. And they say that they're fully committed to cooperating with this new independent panel that is going to be set up to hear the second charge. I think for the Premier League, their statement is very businesslike, sticks to the facts as you would accept. They say that Everton appealed the sanction imposed on them on 9 grounds, and they say that 2 of those 9 grounds were upheld by the appeal board. I think the Premier League want to make it clear that Everton were just appealing against the punishment, not the finding. They admit that they broke the spending rules. I think it's interesting as well that the appeal board has decided the main reasons that Everton did break the spending rules were because they didn't manage their finances as prudently as they should have done. They say that there were limited mitigating factors. For instance, that Everton have been, they've realised for a long time that they were spending too much, that they could be in danger of breaking these financial rules. So they have been reining in their spending. If you look at how much they've been spending or how little they've been spending in the transfer market, that is very clear. And I think the appeal board recognises that losses have reduced year on year. However, there were aggravating factors, including the extent of the overspend and also the club providing incorrect information new stadium costs. I think as well, the big picture as well is, if you speak to people who run Premier League football clubs or any football club, it is very, very difficult to know exactly how much money you're going to be spending and how much money is going to be coming in. It is hugely, there's so many variables.
Which is why they do it over a 3-year period, I guess.
They do it over a rolling 3-year period. But why has this limit not been increased? Why has it been £105 million that you're allowed to lose over a 3-year period for something like going back 10 years now? Surely inflation should be taken into account.
Feeling the pinch at the moment.
Exactly. So if the limit had risen in line with inflation, I think it would be something like £200 million. And Everton and Forest would be in the clear. They wouldn't have broken the rules at all.
Look, interestingly, we know that they're up for a second charge as well. So too are Nottingham Forest, so they're going to be listening to this all the time and wondering what's coming their way. My question here is, which I don't know whether we can even answer, is will they get a 6-point deduction and that's it? Could there be an appeal process for that? Because they've set a precedent now.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the benchmark now for breaking these rules is a 6-point deduction. Everton are saying that they're satisfied. The Premier League is saying they're satisfied. So the only concern I would have now is if I was a Forest fan or an Everton fan is this is the benchmark, this is the precedent. We've got a second charge and we are probably going to get the same punishment again. Now, if we do get that punishment, we've got the right to appeal as well.
Well, what's the point? Because you said you're happy with the 6 point.
It could be different amounts that they've lost. There could be different mitigating factors. So they would probably want to go to an appeal. They would definitely want to go to an appeal board as well. But that is just the worry that I would have, which is why I started off by saying this is a very small victory.
Okay.
Yes, to the outside world, it looks good that a 10-point deduction is now a 6-point deduction. But I think for Everton fans, nothing to celebrate really. They will still feel that they shouldn't be getting a points deduction at all. They should be getting a financial fine, as has happened to other clubs. For instance, I think Queen's Park Rangers spent too much money when they were in the Premier League. They were hit with a £40-50 million fine, and they are still paying the price of that because that fine is being paid over 10 years, I think. And you see the state that Queen's Park Rangers are in and their finances are in. You just think maybe that is a more proportionate way of dealing with these issues.
Make a good point, as always. Thank you, Carve. So, as Carve was saying, potentially good news for Everton, but bad news for the teams around them in this fight for survival, especially Luton, who occupy the last relegation place as things stand at the moment. However, Luton boss Rob Edwards claims it doesn't change anything for his side.
we've been going off the league table with no deductions anyway, so it makes no real difference. We were in the bottom 3 before it. We are now, albeit now it looks like we're behind Forest, 4 points behind with a game in hand. So the situation is the same really from our point of view. We've been, as I say, we've been dealing with it without deductions because we can't put that. We can't. That can't be the thing that keeps us in the league. We've got to try and make it in our own hands. That's what we've got to try and do. So, it's, in a way, it's good there's a bit of clarity.
I know the situation, you're trying to see it as the Premier League table without any deductions, but it does make things a little bit harder. Of course, there are still fresh charges against Everton and Nottingham Forest, which could change things once again.
It's going to be hard anyway, isn't it? We're in a difficult league. It's been tough from day one. There's more charges. That's completely out of our hands and out of our control. What's in our control is our performances, how hard we work, and I wish we could control results, but we can't. So it is important what other people do, but if we don't do our job, it doesn't matter at all anyway. So we knew this was going to be a really difficult task, and that's always been the case, and it's not going to change.
Reminder then of how the Premier League table now looks, with Everton moving 5 points clear of Luton, who are in 18th, with a much superior goal difference as well for Everton. We heard Rob Edwards there insisting he's not looking at deductions. Here's more from the Luton boss.
Conference was dropped. You said that.
That's my assumption.
No, we were in the bottom 3 before it anyway. We're just 4 points behind Forest with a game in hand. We're in the mix, like I said. We've spoken openly with the boys on a number of occasions, said we're not looking at the points deductions. We're in the bottom 3 anyway, when we were out of the bottom 3 at one stage. So it's not changed, and our task hasn't changed. So I don't see us having to pick anyone up at all.
Is it frustrating, the lack of clarity and the chopping and changing of what's going on with Everton?
Not for us, maybe it is for them. I suppose that's been very difficult for them, but Sean Dyche seems to have handled it very, very well. And, but it's a unique situation, isn't it? Not something that any of us really have dealt with before. But again, it's out of our control. All I really care about is Luton Town, and we've got to make sure we get enough points to stay in the league, whatever that will be. We don't know, and I don't want to have to rely on other things, external factors again that are out of our control.
It to be made clear that now any financial penalties would be 6 points. Obviously, 9 points is administration, so it can't be as many as that, otherwise clubs would just opt for that. So would you like the Premier League to come out and say, right, this is what the penalty will be moving forward, and do you anticipate Everton and Forest getting 6 more points because they've been investigated?
I won't comment on what could happen or in the future, but I suppose clarity on the number of points, because if the rules are there, then I suppose they need to be adhered to, but there needs to be a clarity on what the penalty is for that, and that would help everyone. And as for going forward, again, that's stuff that's out of our control, and it's really nothing to do with me at the moment.
It's only human nature. Your players thought that, though.
I thought what?
That maybe they'll get even more points taken off.
Maybe, it's human nature, but again, we can't control that, and we can't, we can't sort of bank on that or use it. So that's completely out of our control. What is how, like I said, how hard we work, commitment to what we're trying to do, and try and perform as well as possible. These are the difficult questions, because it's obviously very new, this sort of thing, and I've certainly not experienced it before. But again, it's hypothetical at the moment, because these ones have not happened yet, or if they do, if they don't, we don't know. We've got to concentrate on ourselves.